Most of us have a big reference file of things we failed at in our brain. I've watched client after client go straight to this reference file anytime they want to do something new. And you can imagine that this isn't too helpful. I'm Dr. Scott Mills, and today I would like to take you through an unconscious repatterning exercise that will allow you to hold on to all of that valuable information that you learned in failure, and at the same time let go of all the emotional charge of it. This exercise is inspired by the brilliant Tony Robbins, who's been using an exercise like this for decades all over the world and seeing massive change with people everywhere he goes. To begin with, I'd like you to create a little corral over here, a little area like where they keep horses, but where you can keep all of your failures, all of the little movies and pictures and representations of the failures that you already know you've been referencing. Just create that little corral, and whatever you want to do to make sure it feels really, really safe to put things in there so they won't be too big for you, whether it's putting a force field around it or making the fence extra high. This is going to be a very, very safe space for all of these events to go. And once you've got that done, go ahead and begin throughout your timeline, throughout the past, to just pull them over, just like dragging and dropping on a computer screen, all of those past experiences where you failed. Just drag them one by one. And for those of you who are computer savvy, you can do a batch sort. So just click on one button and let all of them get highlighted at once and drag them over to that little corral. And there may be even some that your conscious mind doesn't identify, but your unconscious mind just put some placeholders over there. And that's absolutely fine. And as they all arrive in this little corral, I'd like you to begin to run them in your mind very, very quickly. And you can start with the earliest ones and go forward in time to the closest ones that have happened to you now. Just run these very quickly in your mind so that you can see them as if they're speeded up by 5 times, but so you can still have access to them. So go ahead and watch them all. I'll give you a little bit of time. If you need to, you can always stop the recording and just pause until you're ready for the next instruction. Once you've got all of these experiences in this very safe corral, I want you, just as if you were watching a movie, so not in the action, not experiencing it as if it's happening to you again, but as if you were watching somebody else, I'd like you to begin from the very earliest memories, the very earliest examples, to run these movies through very quickly, just so you can get a sense of them, the details, notice what happened. And this is not to have any judgment or experience, just run them quickly through so you can see them and have some experience of them once again. Take all the time you need to do this, and at any point during this exercise, you can always feel free just to stop the recording, pause, complete that part of it, and then come back when you're ready. Once you've run all of these forward, then I'd like you from the very end to start running these backwards. Run them backwards so everything goes backwards in all of these events. You can see the people's motions go backwards. You start at the end and work towards the beginning. Even let the sound go backwards so that everything go backwards all the way to the very beginning, to the very first time. So go ahead and do that now. Take your time, remembering you can always hit pause and start again when you're done. Now allow yourself from the beginning to drain all of the images, all of these movies of color, and take them to black and white. So just let all of these images that have just run backwards go black and white, and run all of them very quickly forwards from the very beginning to the very end, from the very earliest to the very latest, just running them very, very quickly. And each time you move backwards or forwards, I want you to move even quicker. So this time run them all forwards and then backwards in black and white. And go ahead and do that now. You're doing great. Now you may be noticing that each time you run these and you change the filter just a little bit, that the charge starts to get less and less because the way that your brain relates to these are shifting. So go ahead now, and as you run this forward and backwards yet again, and this time run it 2 or 3 times really quickly, black and white. This time let's do a little bit of sound. So add some background track to this occurrence, these experiences that are really silly, whether they're like circus music or it's music from some silly cartoon you know, any music that seems absolutely out of congruity, so completely disconnected from what should be happening. So most of us in our minds, we have this dun, 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 dun kind of music. Just make it fun, silly music, and make sure it's not music that you love. Just make it something silly and goofy. So go ahead and run that forward and backwards a couple times, just allowing it to be in black and white, all of these experiences to be in black and white, and run them backwards and forwards with some sound added in. Go ahead and do that 2 or 3 times now. Great. I can imagine you're already starting to feel a much less charge, more peace and ease as you see these. But this time, go ahead and add even a little bit more fun. So this time, go ahead and anybody in these experiences, I'd like you to change them visually just a little bit. So you might add clown noses, you might put on crazy outfits, you can shrink them down. Only shrink them down, don't expand them in size, just make them smaller. You can make them a different color, you can paint them with a rainbow. Change anything you want visually as you run these forward and backwards very quickly, continuing to leave these in black and white, and having some silly fun sound. Go ahead and do that now, 2 or 3 times at least. For those of you who are really quick, you can do it even more. All right, now I want you this time to keep going with this, but this time I want you to add one last detail in. This is for those of you who are really ambitious. I'd like you to imagine that these are like movie clips on the cutting room floor so that you can allow yourself to rearrange the clips. So maybe it goes from the middle to the end to a little later part of the middle to the very end to the beginning. You can change the order of these events. So your brain has to deal with them in a whole new way. So go ahead and just allow yourself to splice these up in any order you want, just mixing it up so it's not the natural order, running it backwards and forwards in black and white, allowing all of the visual changes that you already created and adding even more if you'd like. So maybe more clown noses or a unicorn horn. Maybe everybody's in their underwear. Whatever makes you just giggle and start to have a good time and experience these experiences in a way that's light and fun. So go ahead and do that now, and don't forget the funny music. Run those back and forth 2 or 3 times really quickly. Good job. Now for anyone that this charge has not completely dissipated, so if you can't look at these experiences right now and just see how silly they are, have a sense of levity, or at very least be neutral, then I'd like you to continue to run these back and forth as quick as you can and really, really fast, back and forth. So very, very quickly through all of the experiences until you get it to the point that it's neutral, continuing to leave it black and white, continuing to leave the silly music, changing anything visually you'd like, and leaving the pieces out of order. So do that as many times as you need until you get to the point where you're at least neutral. And now when you're ready, I'd like you to take that little corral of all of those experiences that were once negative, and now you can just look at feeling at least neutral, but maybe having a sense of laughter or levity, seeing how life has changed so much since then. Just allowing that whole corral to shrink it down, make it smaller, and then move it further away from you. Maybe 50 or 100 feet, so that you still have access to all of the learning and wisdom that those attempts in your past have provided. And you will have an opportunity to reference that anytime you want to, but it won't be automatic. So just pushing it out so far that you can reference it by choice. Go ahead and do that now. This has been a great exercise to really help you shift your relationship to your past learning attempts so that you can really experience all of the wisdom and learning without the charge. So good work here. I'll look forward to the next video we do together, and until then, be well.